What's up guys, Kizais here, and today we're diving into the best settings that every AD carry player should be using. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bizais, an AD carry specialized coach, and I've helped tons of players optimize their gameplay, not just with mechanics, but also with settings. I can bet that you don't know the last setting, so be sure to watch until the end. The first thing is attack move on cursor or attack move click. What it actually means is the following. If you're doing attack move on cursor, which is basically you press A and then you actually press left click, and what it does, it actually hits the closest target, as you can see. Or some other players, they do attack move on click, which means they press a key. You can bind it to your mouse or you can bind it to your keyboard. Let's say I bind it to A, and then now I just press A and it basically clicks. So you need to have this setting because you don't want to miss clicks. If you're normally just attacking with your right click and you miss the click, obviously you're just going to end up dying because you just woke up straight to the enemy, right? So I do recommend you to use one or the other. If you're already used to the normal kiting with attack move on cursor and you do this technique, that's fine. It's re-optimized and most of the top players actually use this. If you're not used to any technique and you just right click to attack, this is very bad. But if you are, then I do recommend you to just go to the settings, just go to the player movement, and right here on the shift mouse button 2, you put A. And right now, when you're going to press A, it basically attacks automatically. Just make sure that you are precise, right? You move the click and you are very precise with your cursor. A very important settings to also have here is on the game and attack move on cursor, which is actually going to make sure the attack move will prioritize the target closest to your mouse click. Because of course, if you're getting chased off a few people in the team fight and you want to attack, let's say, only the backline target like this, and you just want to kite, you want to make sure that if you miss the click, you're still going to attack the closest target based on your click. If you don't have this setting enabled, what's going to end up happening is that your champion will automatically click onto the first target. So very important settings to have right here. You can choose, again, if you already use the attack move on cursor, use it. It's very good for preciseness. If you're not, then I do recommend you the other one with attack move click, which is actually less input. You want to make sure you're kiting properly, and by properly I mean the following. If you're doing this like this is very bad, because so many cases, look, in the team fights, you want to hit only one guy. So if you're actually going to the lazy kiting, I call this lazy kiting. Why do I call it like that? It's because, well, it's just really lazy. Like, what do? You just like do this. It's really, really bad, because if there are two persons and you actually want to hit that guy, for example, right there, you're just going to, with the lazy kiting, you're just going to hit the closest target, right? So make sure you go into a practice tool, and if you use the following drill, you get 3 items on a attack speed champion. It could be Jinx, it could be anything else. And then you do this. You click on the target and you constantly kite, right? But you are precise. You see how I'm moving the mouse every time when I'm actually attacking? It's really important. Do not do lazy kite. The next setting that I want you to actually implement in your gameplay is the target champions hold, which is on default on tilde. It's the button on your left of the 1 number on your keyboard. You hold it, and now you can't actually click on minions. You can only click on champions or tower. So this makes tower diving very, very easy, as if someone is, let's say, behind the tower, I can easily, as you can see right here, just click on him. So make sure you actually do the setting as well, which is basically the following. So you go to abilities and summon spells, you scroll down all the way to target champions only, and you put this, usually people put it on T, most of the pro players have it on T, but other players have it on G. I keep it on default. You can also enable this one, treat target champions only as a toggle, and just because it might be very, very hard for you to hold it and dive and also be precise, and it's pretty difficult to do that, right? So what you do is that you just press one time, you toggle it, and then after you finish tower diving, of course, don't forget to disable it. Boom. The thing that I want to show you is the one for your abilities. So typically I do recommend quick cast, and I use quick cast for every single ability. Unless you're absolute beginner and you want to use normal cast, I do recommend you quick cast for sure, just so you can actually be faster in your combo. But there are some cases, so 95% of the cases, you should use quick cast and you should just press the ability and it goes immediately, just because this is just super efficient. You can throw it right away, and if someone is, let's say, face checking what's going on you, you can react right away. But there are some cases where you might need the range. You might need the range of the abilities, and this is what I actually use. I go to settings, I go to abilities and summon spell, and right here on a normal cast, I actually bind to Shift Q, Shift W, Shift E, Shift R. So when I am actually going to have everything, I will be able to see the range. Why would I actually use it? Well, for example, let's say I'm not really sure about my, I want to, let's say, throw an ultimate here, and I don't know about my hitbox. If I press Shift R, now the hitbox is going to make sure it goes and it's gonna hit, right? Because I can see how fat the ultimate is, so I can even show it like this, show it, and then if the guy is dodging, boom, you still hit it. There are many situations when this is actually very, very helpful. Let's say you play Ashe and you want to angle the W in a certain way, so you can hit either both of the targets, or maybe you're just wanting to farm very safely and there are minions and you don't want to push the wave, so you just want to farm, like you want to W on this angle like this, so you can only hit one guy, something like this, boom, you hit one minion, and then you just immediately back off. Super, super handy, and most of the pro players actually use this as well. The next setting that I do recommend to you is simply to go to communication and rebind your pings. It's very important to actually have your pings binded just because you want to be really fast with pinging. For example, what I use is the following setting. I go to hotkeys, go to communication, and I use push ping. The push ping is very important because once you actually get a kill on the lane phase or you want to tell your support to ping, it's pretty hard to just go on the right like this, to just hold the wheel and go to push. It's just more like fast and to just, just press the key. I have it on comma and boom, your support is right away going to go onto the wave. So I do use that. And I like the all-in ping as well, because the all-in ping, if I want to play super aggressive, I can just, walk up and ping my support to go hello, or just play aggressive, right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, of course. And the all-in ping is really nice because you can also hit it and it's like a pretty aggressive ping, if you know what I mean, right? Like if we are in the mid game, for example, and we want to do better on Nashor, if you're pinging like this, which most of the players don't even care, it's like a random, the most useless ping. If you ping like this, the chances of them following is really high because you can hear it, it is loud, it is pretty a bit annoying if you ask me. So I do recommend you to rebind your pings for sure to optimize your AD carry. The next thing is the HUD, right? The HUD. You see how big it is right now? So if it takes a lot of space right now, as you can see on my screen, I can't actually see what is going on. The moment I actually lower my HUD, I can actually see what is going on the bot lane. So be sure to not actually put this super huge. I see it a lot with 100. I do recommend you below 50. If you're feeling uncomfortable with using it 0, well, no problem. Obviously, it depends on the resolution that you're also playing. I do recommend you to play maximum 25, but if you feel it's really weird, just put it on 50 and then you gradually go down and go down and go down by 5 points so you can actually get used to it. Again, if you play on a normal 24-inch monitor with a full HD normal resolution, I do recommend it to be on 0, but if you struggle actually seeing the abilities, you can put it on 20, maybe 30, but I do not recommend you to have it super high unless you just have, let's say, problems with your eyes and you really just can't see your stuff, right? Another setting that I do recommend, highly recommend, is the following, and it is with the FPS. So pressing F1, F2, F3, F4 is very important, especially if you play a role that is a little bit more utility, like let's say you play Ashe AD carry or you play Jhin AD carry or Varus. If you play a carry role, it's not as useful as on the utility roles, and obviously on support mid lane or roles that can actually interact with all of the people on the map. F-ing is a must. On AD carry, it is pretty good, pretty optimized to actually use it. I do personally use it more on support or mid lane when I play, but if you can actually use it on AD carry, it's really handy. Just because you press a key and you immediately see the guy fighting, you can immediately decide to move, to leash, to whatever you want to do on the map. I do recommend you to actually put this on something a little bit easier to reach, because F1, F2, F3, F4 is a little bit hard to reach, I will be very honest. So this is why I put CEXG. So when I press G, it's basically the farthest from my finger. It's typically the top laner. Now with Cho'Gath is mid lane, unfortunately. Then on Z, I always typically have my jungle, so I can always go to my jungle and the Z is actually closest to my finger, so I really want to know what my jungle does. And then I do have X on my support because my support is also important, so X is pretty close to my finger. Then I have V, which is typically the mid lane, so V, the mid lane, and then G on the top lane, since G is actually the farthest away from my finger and don't really care much about top lane, so there is that. The next setting that I recommend is just actually having the spell cost on your abilities. This is actually coming very handy just because as you're actually getting more points on the ability, the mana decreases. So sometimes when you have low mana, you want to calculate how much mana you need and you don't want to hover on your abilities just to see the mana. So this way, you go to interface, you just scroll down, and here you have show spell cost. And as you can see on my abilities right here, I can see the mana. This is super important for you as an AD carry. If you don't have this, I do recommend it's a very good optimization to have it. The next setting is to turn auto attack off. Please put this off. The reason why you want to put it off is because if someone is rooting you, your champion is automatically going to attack the closest target. Pay attention to this right here. So now I'm actually just going to stay into this brush, and I'm not going to attack the Nautilus, so he's going to hook me. Okay, I will actually just let him to hook. Okay, did you guys see that? The moment he rooted me, my champion automatically attacked, which is really bad, and it actually makes a lot of pro players die. Pay attention to this game where Mickey X got caught here. Pay attention to this one right here. So he just wants to run, and what's going to end up happening is that Nautilus is going to root him, and then he accidentally hits the Nautilus. It's actually that he doesn't have good settings. He has auto attack on, which is not good. This is why you must have it off. Please, you must have it off. Next thing is video settings. If you play AD carry, it's really important for you to be able to play the game on a decent FPS. You can actually move, kite, and do your stuff, because if you don't actually have, if you have like 50 frames, you're not playing Nautilus, you hook and then you close your eyes and you open them by the end of the fight. If you hit the hook, you win the game. No, you have to kite, you have to be good in the team fight. So this is why I personally recommend you to play absolutely very low. If you have a bad PC or you struggle with having good stable FPS and you're lagging in the team fight, I also recommend you to make sure you put only to 40 frames or 144 depending on your monitor, and 144 Hz on a monitor is a huge difference on. So if you don't have 144 or 240 and you have the budget, I do highly recommend you to upgrade, just because it's a huge update, it's a huge upgrade for your gameplay in League. Make sure you don't have those two open. Obviously, make sure you optimize the brightness as well, so you can make sure the game is not too dark and not too bright. These are my own setting, but obviously it depends on the monitor. And sometimes I actually prefer to go on the full screen, just because it's actually going to make my FPS more stable, and I like stable FPS. I don't really like to have lag in game, so I actually sometimes play on the full screen if I have problems with the FPS. Sometimes what I even do is I even lower my resolution, so I can have even better FPS. And yes, I know what you're gonna say. You probably hate me by saying that, but I actually prefer. So would you prefer to play with 30 frames in like normal full HD resolution, or to have like 70 to 80 on like a lower resolution? And that's why I typically even lower my resolution with full screen, or sometimes even go all the way down to the borderless like this. It might look ugly. I know some of you will hate me, but I like a stable game. I like a fast game. I like to see when I'm fighting, see who I'm fighting in the game. I don't like to have like 20 frames and just have lag. So definitely make sure you optimize your settings. The next one is the sound setting. Be sure to have good sound settings, not too loud, not too low, but obviously this is going to be on your preference. I do recommend you to have the ping volume on. Ambience volume, it's usually useless, so I actually keep it off. Sound effects is quite important, so I keep it on 75, but obviously the numbers are preference, but sound effects is super important because you want to hear the Glad ulti, the Sion ulti, the Briar ulti. Voice volume, I keep it off. It's pretty useless. I mean, it makes the game a little bit more fun, so sometimes I actually keep it on, but when I want to try hard and focus on the game, I want to make sure I hear only the most essential things in the game. That's why I also turn music off. The numbers, you can just work with them and make sure you find what works for you, but I typically remove, as you can see, I mute some of these things that are relatively useless in this game, and sometimes it might actually look hard for who do you play against. So do you guys see that above of the champion I have the name of the champion as well, just to be sure that I'm not going to miss it out. This way you can actually know who you're facing, just because there are moments where Timo looks like Tristana and Tristana looks like Amumu and Amumu looks like it's like really weird. So you go to interface, and right here show names above health bar. You can go to champions names, or you can just do none, so you can make sure you have more space to work with and you don't actually have a lot of unnecessary names on. The worst thing is definitely the summoner name, but I do prefer the champion. The next setting is with the chat, right? You shouldn't really have chat if you play AD carry, and many cases when people type in the chat, they actually just talk about what happened in the game, and it's pretty useless. Obviously, if you're the kind of player that you don't care about the chat, you don't even watch it, you don't type in the chat, and you're absolutely a chill guy, you might be. But personally, if someone is insulting each other on the chat, I get a little bit triggered. So what I do, I just go to settings, go to interface, and I just put my chat on pre-made only. Obviously, the next optimization that I do is make sure when I go to shop right away. And if I press P, which is the shop, or if I just click on this right here, it's pretty slow. So I actually bind it on C, just so I can actually be really handy with buying the items and just going right to the lane phase right away. You can do this on hotkeys. You go to item shop and you just bind it on C. Well, you can keep it on P, or you can keep it on X. You can keep it on whatever you want. I have it on C just because it's like really handy and really fast to use typically. So that's why I keep it on that. The next tip is actually leveling up with your keyboard. It's pretty bad to just move your cursor and click. It's super inefficient. And if you are leveling up just right away like this, it is super handy, super good. So pay attention to how much damage I do with my Q right here. So it takes 28 mana, and if I Q the backline minions, I do 126 damage. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to press Q, and as the Q is traveling in the air, I'm going to level up my ability. And you tell me what happened. So my Q is doing 126 damage, and let's try to actually use it on enemies right here. Okay, so I'm going to use it on this mini. Okay, it's 126 damage and it's 28 mana. But if I'm going to throw it and level up my Q right in the air, as you guys can see, I did 151 damage. What it means is basically if you're queuing and as the Q travels, you're actually leveling up your ability, you will consume the mana that the level 1 Q will consume, so 28, but you'll do the damage of the bigger ability, of the 2 points Q ability. This is something that Faker and other pro players always use, and this is a very good optimization for you as well. After you made all the settings, you want to have persistent settings, which means basically every time when you go to a new account, your settings will get important automatically. The way you do it is simply you make your settings, you just do it either from the client or the in-game in practice tool, for example, and then what you do is the following. You just close the client, and after you close the client, you just go to where you install League of Legends, properties, open file location, and what's going to end up happening right here, that you go to Riot Games, League of Legends, config, and the only thing that you have to do is you right click on the persistent settings, you go properties, and you put this thing on read only. And once you did it, every single time you go to a new account, the settings will get imported. Remember that if you change something, you have to put this back, you have to disable read only, go make your settings, close the client, and then put the read only on once again. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.